Good morning, everybody. As it says there, the changing face of electricity networks. Over the last couple of years, DNOs, distribution network operators, have often stood up and talked about future networks. But I think through the examples I'm going to talk about this morning, you will see that it's not now about future networks. These are about technologies that are in place and making a difference today. So first of all, the inevitable plug for UK Power Networks. If you don't know who we are, as Keith has just said, we are the distribution network operator that looks after the south-east quarter of the UK, the three historical networks of East of England, London and the south-east. That covers about 8 million connected customers, about 16 gigawatts of connected load, and we distribute that over 170,000 odd kilometres of distribution network. So a significant undertaking and by most measures, the largest distribution entity in the UK. So it's probably fair to say that the distribution community have not historically been seen as being at the bleeding edge of innovation historically. But I think that's changing. That's changing for a number of reasons, and I set those out here in no particular order of priority. First of all, it makes good business sense. The traditional ways that DNOs have met the challenge of meeting the increasing use of energy in our society through installing ever more cable, ever more copper in the ground, transformation, etc., is no longer viable on a system level scale. Of course, we are a regulated entity. Paul talked about that. And we have very strong incentives on us through the price mechanism that we've just agreed with Ofgem for the next 8-year period, that again makes absolute sense for DNOs to drive innovation into the way we do business. Our customers are also telling us that they need us to innovate, and that's both the customers that are looking to connect to our network and also those customers, of course, that are already connected to our network. And last but not least, of course, we recognise our part that we have to play in the decarbonisation of the electricity supply chain. We form an integral link in delivering energy to the homes and businesses of the UK, and we recognise the integral part that we have to play in making that a success. So this morning I'm going to talk about two principal technologies. The first, smarter network storage, the second, flexible plug and play, and I hope in the next 10 minutes I will be able to convince you that they're real, they're delivering benefits today, and they're part of our future. So first of all, the Smarter Network Storage Project. This is a battery, in effect. It's a 10 megawatt hour battery. That's the largest storage device of its nature in Europe. Peak output 6 megawatts, or at least it will be when we get it fully commissioned. But some of the characteristics of this project sit across our approach to innovation. They are, first of all, that we work with partners from academia and across industry and across different sectors also of the energy market in bringing this innovation to bear. And the second is that we are leveraging the opportunity that DNOs have had over the last few years through the Low Carbon Network Fund. So Smarter Network Storage is a £17 million project, £13 million of which is being funded by the Low Carbon Network Fund. But before I go into any more detail, the team pulled together a short video that explains a little bit about what Smarter Network Storage does, and so I hopefully, with the press of this button, we'll play that video.
Sleep in the outside your door. You'll find love where you don't know. You know that if you ever tried your last, call out on me if the old wind broke your mind. Set out to sea if you've fallen down. You know that I'm here, so you come on home to me. Oh, my son, stay curious, my boy. Always ask where this road goes. Oh, my son, stay curious, my boy. Oh, my son, stay curious, my boy.
So the main reason I wanted to include that video is it gives a great sense of the scale of what the big battery is all about. So the project has its formal name, Smarter Network Storage. You'll never hear anybody internally within UK Power Networks use that name. It's always the big battery. And clearly you can see why. I think one of the characteristics of both this project and the next one I'll talk about is that this is not just about the technology. I suspect we have many engineers in the room, and you'll know that engineers love to play with new toys, and the bigger the better. And that's an important part of this project and an important part of the learning that we're seeking to achieve. But that is only part of the picture. If these technologies are going to be viable on a system scale, then not only do we have to address the technical issues of integrating that kind of technology into our distribution network, but we also have to be sure that it works commercially, that it is commercially viable, and that we have dealt with, identified, and addressed the regulatory and legal barriers that may exist in the frameworks that we have today. And so both of these projects, and you can see the key objectives up there on the board, both of these projects are rounded in the sense that they seek to address those three aspects: commercial, technical, regulatory. Now, the reason we chose the site of Leighton Buzzard is because we had a real problem to solve, and that is for a small number of hours each year, we could see that the demand of the site was going to exceed the capacity of the overhead line feeding the site, and hence we had a choice to make. We either looked to a smarter solution in terms of the battery, or we took the traditional route, which was an expensive reinforcement of a long overhead line. And this picture just simply shows that in terms of that key objective, it's doing the job well. We are able to flatten out that system peak. We've avoided and deferred for 10 years plus, we believe, the need to reinforce that overhead line. And of course, combining that with the opportunity to take the learning, which we can then translate to other sites. But it's not just about the peak shaving. There are a number of approaches that we are trying to stack in terms of proving the commercial case. So peak shaving I've talked about, fast frequency response. I'm told this is the first time that Grid have contracted with a provider for fast frequency response since the large-scale hydro came online. Now, we haven't yet been able to deliver that in practice. And very simply, this is a research and development project. Things don't always go as you hope they will. So we are still working our way through a number of technical issues with the control gear that enables us to get the full peak power delivery out of the battery. Triad, we are working with a supplier to help them manage the triad process, which is clearly critical to the supply business, and short-term operating reserve. And again, we have been available, you can see we've been available through April. As it turns out, there were no dispatch calls from Grid, but it's the stacking of these services that ultimately we believe will be able to make the technology viable. Importantly though, We are committed to ensuring that the learning we achieve through this project is shared on an entirely open source basis. And so you can see there 5 documents that have been published. They're available today on our website. You can see the programme for the future learning dissemination documents that will flow. And please, those of you that have an interest, use them and take the benefit of the learning that, after all, we have all helped to fund through the Low Carbon Network Fund. So that's smarter network storage. The second project that I'll talk about is flexible plug and pay. So there has been an explosion in DG in the UK over the last couple of years. Personally, I run the part of the business that connects DG to our network. Our inquiries, the level of inquiry, have gone from 300 inquiries in a year 3 or 4 years ago to last year over 7,000. That explosion has meant that we as DNOs and we as UK Power Network have had to think about new and innovative ways to enable the greater connection of distributed generation, for us typically large-scale solar, into the distribution network. Again, you can see those characteristics of a shared funding between UK Power Networks and the Low Carbon Network Fund, and again working with partners from across academia and industry. So the problem is very clear. There's 4 diagrams here. If I can first take you to the left-hand side of the screen. We publish these to give our customers an indicative view of where there is capacity on the distribution network. And you can see on the left-hand side the picture in 2013. Fast forward a little under 2 years, and you can see how fast that has changed. And that is because we have connected now well over 1 gigawatt of DG to our networks. And importantly, we have committed to connect an additional gigawatt of large-scale, typically large-scale solar, not uniquely, to our networks over the coming months. What is clear then is that if we do not think about taking a different approach, the networks will become saturated, and effectively these low-carbon sources of energy will be constrained off the network. So in this part of the world, a 700-kilometre square patch around Cambridgeshire, we launched a pilot known as FPP, and we believe actually that that's been successful in enabling us to connect greater levels of DG than would otherwise have been the case. So I shan't dwell on this slide. I'm becoming short on time, I think. What's important, though, is it is integrating a number of different technologies to enable a non-firm connection to be provided for a distributed generator. Traditionally, DNOs provide the connection, it's solid 100% of the time. Clearly, that has benefits for our connected customers, but for a generator, by taking a degree of flexibility, by accepting a level of constraint, when there are times when you will not be able to export energy into the network, it can radically change the cost of connection, which are one of the key drivers of making a viable scheme. This slide just simply points out that we are integrating a number of technologies. Within this project, we have demonstrated the use of the first quadrature booster at a distribution level here in the UK. We are using technologies such as dynamic line rating. Very simply, that means you can squeeze more energy down an overhead line on a cold, windy day than you can on a still, sunny day, as well as some sophisticated active network management tools that enable us to manage in real time, dynamically, the output of generators connected to our network. And as I say, by accepting a level of constraint, the network operator is able to significantly reduce the cost of connection. So, flexible plug and play, it's real. The project has delivered. As you can see on the left-hand side there, over 40 connection offers have been made. 15 of those have been accepted. Of those 15, in aggregate, they have saved £44 million of cost of connection to the distribution network. And that is at a level that, had the FPP solution not been available, many, if not all of those schemes would not have been viable commercially. The list goes on, but what is important is this isn't a hypothetical R&D project for the future. We have now translated the learning that we took from flexible plug and play, and we have now launched that into our business as usual services. So the area there in light blue around Norfolk, that's the Norwich grid supply zone. We launched flexible plug and play into that zone, and we've been able to connect a further 100 megawatts of distributed generation that otherwise would not have been viable. And our approach will be on a phased zone-by-zone basis to cover the whole of the distribution area. So that's very much up and running and business as usual. Again, it's open source. Again, all of the learning that we have achieved through this project is available on our website. Please avail yourselves of that. So in summary, I think what is clear is, and certainly what it feels to us internally within UK Power Networks, is our role is changing and our networks are changing. And that change is now, it's present, and actually it's quite fast. I'd like to think we're adapting. I think there's an awful long way to go, both for the entire electricity supply chain and the role DNOs play within that. But that change is real and present with us today. I think what's key, though, is that research and development is only as good as the tangible benefit that we're able to achieve from it. And the challenge with all of these schemes is turning a bespoke research and development project with a focused and committed development team into a technology and approach that we can use widely across the business. And that's very much what we're about. So thank you very much.